All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start on time and end on time. Thank you for being prompt. Never punish the punctual. So as you can see, welcome to FAVOB's Professional Development Academy. This is the first event of 2024, one of many scheduled for 2024. We'll talk about that just a little bit later. The instructions are there on your screen to mute your microphone and type your name, organization, your web social link, and veteran status into the chat. And we'll make big use of the chat, and I'll give you some instructions here in just a second. I'd also encourage you to follow FAVOB on social media for both future events and a lot of information about what's going on with FAVOB. You'll learn that we have quite a big social media following. In fact, about 10,000 social media followers, both on LinkedIn, FAVOB, Facebook. And we ask also, as we go through the presentation, we'll repeat this several times, that once you come up with a question, if you'll type it into the chat and put a title on it so that we can group questions for the panelists as we, at the end of the session, we'll have a dialogue, a back and forth with questions to be answered about everything from registration to opportunities to how do I do this and how do I do that. And we'll give enough time at the end of the session to answer those questions. And I'll just let you know, you don't have to ask. We will provide slides to you. They won't quite look like this because this has a big build on it. So they're pretty big slides. They'll be straightforward PowerPoint slides and they'll have links in there. So I think about ready. We've got about 22 and folks will be joining us all through the session. So let's get started. And Chris, if you can let Joe Marino also be a co-host, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You may actually have to do that. For some reason, it's not allowing me to change their status.
Let me find him here real quick.
Sorry about that.
All right. And if you can just keep me honest, that would be great. If you see anybody else jump in.
You got it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, I'm so excited. So listen, we're gonna use this agenda slide as a guide for our presentation. The beginning of the presentation is gonna be a little slide heavy. I'm not gonna read from it, you can read yourself, but I want it to guide our conversation. We'll work through these slides that'll provide the foundational information for you to be successful as a participant. You know, who's the panelist, they'll introduce themselves. I'll introduce myself in just a second. Make sure you understand what the purpose and objectives are of the session. And then we'll get into some basic overview of the school district programs and some resources because we've invited Veterans Florida and the Small Business Development Corporation, SBDC, to be on the call also to help small businesses and veteran-owned businesses realize how many resources there are for veteran-owned and small businesses in the state of Florida. And then the bulk of our session is working with the school districts. And once the panelists introduce themselves and answer a few questions, then we're going to navigate through how the system actually works. And so I'll be the navigator and my school district resources will point me in the right direction so you understand what's going on. So let's jump right in. So the purpose and the objective of the session. So we really want to create an opportunity virtually because we have FAVOB members all across the state, right? We want to create an opportunity for veteran-owned businesses and veteran business enterprises to thrive. That's our key term of FAVOB as vendors of products and services for the school district. I didn't even realize this until I started with this. There are 80 school districts in the state of Florida, right? And all of them buy something from somebody. And anything that you can think of that goes into the operation of a school from food to crayons, right? That's a Marine Corps joke if you get it. From food to crayon, it gets bought by school districts. So we really want you to understand what this opportunity is for you and to meet with the folks who are doing the work in Osceola County Schools, which we have a great relationship with, and Hillsborough County Schools, which we also have a relationship with. And then talk to their resource professionals over there. And we have a very special guest. We have one of our own, and we'll introduce him in just a second with Blue Cord Construction, who's actually a vendor, and he'll talk about his experience. And we'll talk about the system that supports VOBs, and that includes Veterans Florida and SBDC. And then we'll understand the process to get registered and bid on opportunities. The key is to get your questions answered. So again, I'm going to I'm going to encourage you as you go through the slide presentation, especially up front, or you've got something in mind, make sure you're asking the questions you want in the chat with a little title on the front of it. So let's jump right in. These are the questions that we're going to ask the school district. So I always like to start with the end in mind. So this is what we're going to ask them. So be prepared for this. We're going to ask them about why do they have these programs and how do they work, right? And how do you navigate through them? And then how do you prepare to register, bid, and win on these contracts? And the other cool thing is, what do they buy? Like I said, everything. They buy everything. And then lessons learned as a vendor, and then other resources. Again, all questions in the chat. So let's do some quick introductions. So just so you know, my name is Stu Smith. I am the CEO of the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses. If you don't know anything about the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, I'm going to give you that information. And so we've been around for about 11 years. We really did start doing what we do really, really well, which was network. And we started in the Orlando market. We expanded to the Space Coast market, which is Brevard County, Florida. Then we went over to Tampa, and then we went up to the Panhandle, and then into Jacksonville. And so we have members in those markets, and we've got members all over the state of Florida. We've got a group of members down in Miami who do some networking. We've got some members up in Ocala who are starting to do their networking. So we represent veteran-owned businesses across the state. And we're it. If you think about veteran-owned businesses, a business association for veteran-owned businesses, we are that association. And so our vision is to be the recognized voice of veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida. And so I'm just turning on my timer over here. I'm sorry about that. Is to make sure that you are represented in many, many ways. There was a census done in 2012 and released in 2017 that identified 185,756 veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida, generating $57 billion in annual sales. There's that number, and then there's an SBDC number that's more recent, and it's in 2022, which identified about 135,000 veteran-owned businesses, because there's a little bit of delta in there, and we're always trying to figure out what that's all about. But some of the compelling numbers with that data is that in the survey side, many of those businesses, veteran-owned businesses, reported that they made less than $25,000 in annual revenue. So that's an interesting data point. Not sure what it means. Does it mean that we're doing our side hustle thing, or does it mean we're not being as successful as we want to be? We also want to let you know that unlike many other states, Florida uses the Office of Supplier Diversity to enable us to be able to do contracting business with the state of Florida. Some other states do have mandatory set-asides, New Jersey, New York, California, Texas, and so on and so forth. But we partner with the OSD, the Office of Supplier Diversity, through the Department of Management Services, and also with our partners at Veterans Florida to ensure that we have the kind of opportunities that we need as veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida. We have a value proposition that's very straightforward. I'm an old Army guy. As you might be able to tell from my background, that military service is in my family. That happens to be my dad's and my father-in-law's casket flag. My son's currently an active duty service member, so family service runs deep in my family. So as an Army guy, I got to make things pretty simple, right? And so we couch this around GIs can. And so we want to galvanize, inform, connect, and advocate, and network. And what we really, really do well is network. That's our core competency. So we really do want to bring people together like Veterans Florida, like SBDC, like the school districts, and get them to understand who we are and get them to help us and enable us to do business with them. So they need to understand what our mission and our vision is. We just recently completed our third visit to Tallahassee. It was super successful. We got to meet with folks who are known as the veteran or the military and veteran caucus members. And I'll tell you that we've got an upcoming legislative breakfast in Orlando. So that's part of that galvanizing, right? And part of that advocating in there. We also like to keep you informed. This is an example of keeping you informed about not only the vision and the mission and the value proposition, but also to educate you on how to be successful. And we're going to talk to you about this year's full slate of professional development events, both virtual like this and in person. And we want to connect each other. And we really do that through our directory at favob.org. Our vision for veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida is that we can enable and put as many veteran-owned businesses in a single directory where everyone from a consumer to another business can find you and do business with you. If you don't know it, about 70%, most surveys show somewhere in about 70% of consumers would actually prefer to do business with a veteran-owned business, given the choice. The hardest thing for a consumer to do is to find a veteran-owned business, because if you don't publish it, if you don't put it on your website or on your social media, then they have to try to figure out, are you a veteran-owned business? We also advocate, that's the legislative side, and we really do want to talk about the value of a veteran and the value of a veteran-owned business. And we do have a principled legislative agenda, which we take to Tallahassee with us to reconcile and to talk to our legislators about what's important to us and to support them and what's important to them. And in every single one of our markets, we have networking events, and we'll talk about those events as we go through that. So that's a little bit about FAVOB. So I don't know who that handsome airborne trooper is up there in the corner, but that's about 40 years ago and 40 pounds ago. But again, my name is Stu Smith. I say CEO, it's Chief Everything Officer. So with me and with Chris Borelli, who is the FAVOB Executive Assistant, we are the paid staff for FAVOB, and the rest we operate on wonderful volunteers, many of them on this call. I see Shirley Baez is on this call, who leads our Tampa effort, and I think Doug Cochran is on this call, who leads our Jacksonville effort. So we operate on a lot of volunteers to get stuff done. So there's our mailing address. Link in with me. It's our favorite way to do things. Like I said, we've got a lot of social media followers. All right, so that's enough about FAVOB. So let's talk about who's on the panel with us. So we're not going to read the slides to you. I'm going to turn this over to Katrina. And Katrina, I'm going to ask you a question. Could you please just introduce yourself and let us know, what is this role of supervisor of small business and veterans programs in Osceola County?
Hey, everybody. I'm Katrina. Like Stu said, I am the supervisor of small business and veteran programs for the school district of Osceola County. It is a fairly new role. I've existed, if you will, for about 1.5 years. And while that seems like a long time, kind of in this arena, we're still trying to figure stuff out. So really what my goal is, the school board kind of made it an effort, and it is now in our policies, that we are going to intentionally connect our small and veteran business community with our open solicitations, our purchases, both direct and indirect with the school district, in hopes to support those businesses. The district's vision is really working in partnership with our families and community. And so we've taken that to heart. And have started those steps to intentionally connect businesses and to start doing business with our small and veteran business community. So yeah, I'm kind of a guinea pig, if you will, for the school district. It's going really well. I've been well received into a lot of the organizations like FAVOB, and FAVOB's been a blessing. There's been a lot of support for me in the community, and so yeah, we're getting our feet wet, but I'm excited to be here.
Katrina, thanks very much. And you had a really special program that you hosted last year. What was that event, and are you doing it again this year?
Yes. So last year we hosted our very first vendor opportunity fair in Town Hall. This year we are going to be hosting that event again in July. It should be July 10th. We are going to be removing the Town Hall portion. But the networking event is almost like a reverse trade show, where we set up our large CM partners with our smaller GCs, and then also our community support agencies like FAVOB are there, so that our small and veteran business community and anybody in the community who wishes to do business with the school district can approach any contractor, any support organization, and get their questions answered. We are probably going to be throwing in some educational breakout sessions this year. So cross your fingers. We're working on that right now. But yes, our second annual vendor opportunity fair will be coming to you in July. So look out for all the notifications because they're coming.
Yep, thanks very much. And I attended that event and it was very well attended. It was very illuminating to both the folks who were supporting you and were looking for people, because the most amazing thing, especially in the construction side, was the number of vendors who needed subcontractors. And so we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the program side of this and how that works. But thanks for hosting that. And one of the questions I asked, I think you had some of the biggest construction contractors in the state of Florida who were working with you. And I stood up and asked, what one thing if was changed would help you do more business with veteran-owned businesses? And their answer was, if we could find them. Now, I'm taking them on their word, right, that they made an effort to find us, but it's hard to find us. And that's where FAVOB fits in, and being able to create that connection between those who need veteran-owned businesses in their supply chain and their supplier diversity supply chain, either GovCon like this or in commercial supplier diversity, and those of us who provide those services. And then we have Hillsborough Schools. Now, Ms. Hargrove was not able to join us. I'm going to introduce the person who was able to join us, but I just want to let you know that Bobby Jean is the Supplier Diversity Officer there in Hillsborough. And let me introduce to you Bob Morrison. And Bob, if you could take a few minutes, just like Katrina did, and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about the program there in Hillsborough.
Stu, thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. My name is Bob Morrison, and I'm president of Morrison and Associates. We are a business support services consulting practice that's been in business about 27 years. We have had the pleasure of working with the Hillsborough County School District in the development of its small business encouragement program. The vision of the district of this now 20 plus year engagement is simple. The district, as all around the state, have been the beneficiaries of taxpayer support. Our belief, the district's belief, the school board's belief was that an intentional effort to reinvest those dollars back into Tampa Bay's small business community was mandatory and overdue. So over the last 20, now counting 23 years, the district has shaped a number of initiatives to begin to connect with our small women, minority, and now disabled veteran-owned businesses. I feel particularly connected to this particular discussion, only because, and Stu was not aware of this, but my dad was a World War II vet in Army. My father-in-law was a vet of Korea and Vietnam. And my wife is an Army Reserve officer. So in that many respects, I have a special connection to this conversation and what we're trying to accomplish. At the end of the day, the district has, by all accounts, been extraordinarily successful in its undertaking. Right now, we average about $100,000 a day spent with small businesses, certified small businesses. We, over the past 20 plus years, we are well over $600 million spent with certified businesses, small businesses in particular. And more importantly, we are now in the process of refreshing and actually installing a new financial services, a financial software system that will allow us to, once it's up and operational by the end of the summer, we'll be able to go back to 2020 when we began to track veteran-owned business spending, to track how are we doing as it relates to our veteran-owned businesses in the Tampa Bay area. I'll close with this. When we look at how we begin to open the door of opportunity, the district has always understood that its vision and its purpose has been to how can we validate and open the door for competition. Thus, in some areas, there might be a conversation about a good old boys network. What you're going to find with the Hillsborough County School District, that the vision ultimately is if we can deliver opportunity, the community, our citizens, and the families of our children are better served. With that, I'll stop and allow you to I'll wait for questions or further insight that I can provide regarding this program. And I'll close with this. I'm sorry that Ms. Hargrove cannot be here. As Stu indicated, this is spring break week for Hillsborough County School District. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me, but I hope to make it valuable, insightful, and worth everyone's presence this morning.
Bob, thanks very much, and thanks for your family service. A lot of times we forget about family members serving also, whether they're spouses or sons and daughters of family members. So thanks for that legacy of service. And could you give us those numbers again? What was that daily spend and what was that total spend?
$100,000 a day
Wow.
is spent with certified small businesses by the Hillsborough County School District. And over the last 20 plus years, we are over $600 million spent with certified small businesses in the Tampa Bay area.
Got it. Thank you very much for those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it is my absolute pleasure also to introduce John Hoibraten. So John does not work for the school district, but he does work for the school district because he provides professional services to, I know, at least Osceola. And John is one of our own, as it were. Blue Cord Construction is not only a FAVOB plank owner trustee, our highest level trustee, but Blue Cord and Michael Waldrop is also the founder of FAVOB. So John, if you could just give your quick introduction of what you do and kind of some insights about what you're going to talk about today, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. As Stu said, I'm part of Blue Cord, and so Blue Cord Professional Services is kind of like just a little sister to Blue Cord. Our construction arm has been doing work throughout the VA in the Southeast United States since 2010. About 6 years ago, as Michael was working with FAVOB and working with all the local municipalities to get veteran programs set aside. It wasn't for him. Our bread and butter was working for the VA. It was to help other veterans, and that's kind of where it started growing. About 6 years ago, we decided to kind of, how can we keep spurring this up a little bit more? So then we decided to kind of get involved and start providing assistance to A&E firms and construction managers. So we're doing this for Orange County, School District of Osceola County. We're in Seminole County. We're Lakeland. We're in a lot of different areas now. It did kind of start through Orange County. That's kind of where we started developing this program. A couple of years ago, the School District of Osceola County kind of incorporated that in, has been really growing that program, and we see it growing well down there. We're working into Hillsborough County now, trying to get more of a stated program in place, as the other counties do. But just kind of a quick hit on what one of the people that are on here, Ken, had stated. He stated that most people do not care about he's a veteran-owned business. I will sit there and let you know that most people do care that you are. It's the fact that get them to understand what your service that you provide. The great thing about having these local communities that have the set-aside programs allows you to get your foot in the door, start learning the processes. But once you learn those processes, it allows you to grow throughout the state of Florida, which is what Blue Cord's done. We did that process here locally. It was just kind of a slow start to kind of get into. But now with the education that we've done locally, we've expanded throughout the state of Florida.
John, thanks very much. And we're going to gather some insights as we go through that. I was joking with John earlier, as Katrina and as Bob do the play-by-play as far as how the system works. John's going to do the color commentary about his experience as a vendor. So thanks for being on the call.
My pleasure.
We also want to talk about all the other resources that are available to veteran-owned businesses and those who support the infrastructure. So Janina Rosario is over with the SBDC network, and she is going to introduce herself and just tell you a little bit about SBDC, because it is one of those organizations that is little known, unfortunately. and one of those things that's just a wealth of information. I actually ran 2 of my own small businesses here in the state of Florida, and I'm going to give you a big shout out here. Is when I got ready to sell one of them, I went to SBDC for no cost counseling and was taught how to value that business and was able to sell it for a multiple of what I thought it was worth. And so the SBDC was invaluable to me as a business owner. So please introduce yourself and let folks know what you provide for veteran-owned and small businesses.
Thank you, Stu, and it's great to be with all of you this morning. My name is Janina Rosario, and I am an associate director with the Florida SBDC at USF. However, the Florida SBDC network is a statewide network of small business development centers throughout the state of Florida. The SBDC as a program is a national program partially funded by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, but we are not SBA employees. In my case, I am part of the USF team, the University of South Florida SBDC team, and we cover 10 counties in the West Central Florida area of the state of Florida. We provide, as Stu mentioned, no cost, confidential consulting. What that means is that you talk to a member of our team. That information or the information that you share with us is kept in confidentiality here at the SBDC. As an organization that does receive public funding, we have to report on how we do, but we do so in numbers. How many people we saw in a year, how many hours of services we provided, what were some of the economic results that we were able to help our business community achieve. Never speak about how we, as Stu mentioned, we helped him in the past value and sell his business, though it would have been lovely to do a story about you, Stu, when you were a business owner. With the SBDC, I work with many of the clients that are interested in becoming certified. So I spend a lot of my time talking about the options from becoming veteran-owned certified, service disabled veteran-owned certified, to small business, to women-owned and minority-owned at the different levels, local, state, and federal. And we are very fortunate to also have the Apex Accelerators program as part of the SBDC services in Florida. We have a couple of Apex Accelerators, formerly PTAC. You may have heard those, the other acronym prior. Now that they are part of the Department of Defense, the name of the program has been changed to Apex Accelerators. And together, what we do is support our business community, veterans and non-veterans, to better understand government contracting, how to do business with the school districts that we have here today, and others as well. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. And I want to emphasize too, and sometimes people think, you get what you pay for. Let me just dispel that myth with SBDC. It is no cost, right? It is provided through federal funding. It's your tax dollars at work, and they're hard at work. And I was so impressed with my consultant. When I met with him, then he referred me to the class that I went to. There was a person who was contracted who was an accountant, and there was also a person who was a business broker. And not only did I sit down with them during that session and learn from them, but then they sat down with me individually and helped me, and then invited my accountant to a session to help do the evaluation. And it was at no cost. So it's an amazing service if you don't know about it. Veterans Florida. I thought maybe Amy or Sheila would jump on, but I think Joe Marino, we have you on here. Is that correct, Mr. Yeah, there you go. Look casual, Mr. Marino. Before you start, brother, I'm going to brag on you. Ladies and gentlemen, FAVOB would not be close to where it is in its development. It would not be anywhere near as connected or anywhere near as vibrant if it's not for Veterans Florida. And if you don't know, Veterans Florida is a part of the FDVA, the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, and they are the economic engine of the FDVA. And Joe and his team have just done amazing things for FAVOB to enable us to get connected with the right folks. We apply to some of their grant funding to enable veterans to connect with each other at networking events and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with those networking events. So, Joe, I just want to say thanks from me to you, and if you could introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stu. And how's my audio? My Bluetooth's been a little weird this morning. Okay, great. Cool. My name's Joe Marino. I'm a former Army guy myself. Veterans Florida was created in 2014 to provide career and entrepreneurship opportunities for separating and retiring service members and veterans within the state. And in recent years, we've added SkillBridge to our portfolio. So we're actually attracting a lot of people to the state through that DoD program. And particularly on the entrepreneurship side, we've seen incredible growth. As you can imagine, there's a lot of interest. Any study you read is generally going to say 1 in 3 or even 1 in 2 veterans has some level of interest in entrepreneurship. So I love what we do in providing opportunities for veterans to connect throughout the state of Florida. We've got an incredible business environment here within the state for veteran-owned businesses to grow. FAVOB's been a fantastic partner. We love having, so with our training, what we do is we provide dollars for training across the state. This year, we've invested $600,000 across the state at various partners, such as FAVOB, VEI, if you know them, I'm sure you do, St. Pete College, Nova Southeastern, Florida Gulf Coast University, UNF, and a few others across the state. We even provide some co-working applications at the beginning of our fiscal year, which usually is in the July-August timeframe. So there's a lot of opportunities out in Florida, and we try to connect veterans with those. The 4 main components are going to be our startup cohorts, our growth cohorts, and then we also support workshops like this and networking events as FAVOB and other partners provide as well. Training's good, but a lot of times you need to apply that training through connections and meeting other veteran-owned businesses. So we love supporting that across the state. Next year, we did finish session, as Stu mentioned, and we received our funding for next year. And so next year, we're looking at investing about $640,000 or $650,000 into the state as we get more interest from training partners. This year, we've added Julo Strategy, we added St. Pete College, and Nova Southeastern as 3 new cohort training partners. So we're seeing interest grow from obviously the veteran side of things, but also from the training providers. And we make sure that they have the capacity to do these types of cohort weeks-long training. So we've got a great network across the state, no matter where you are. One interesting item in the session, we had a bill go through, HB 1329, rewrote several portions of our statute because it's been 10 years since we were created, and the market, the workforce and economic development markets changed a lot in Florida since then. One of the additions that they, or one of the new items that they added to the bill is, in the past, spouses could attend our entrepreneur training if they were accompanied with their veteran spouse. Going forward, in July, we're still waiting on the governor's signature, of course, so caveat. But if the bill is signed by the governor, then spouses will be able to attend our training cohorts on their own. They can obviously certainly still bring their spouse with them, but the spouse doesn't necessarily have to be involved with the business anymore for their spouse to take our courses. So that'll be an interesting change, great update to our statute as we expand access to those training programs. And one final note, if you're looking for how to connect with us, you can find us pretty much everywhere except TikTok. We are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I think even Instagram. I have a staff that handles that. I don't get onto the Insta that much. So, but if you want to follow our activities as well as those of our partners, because we love promoting what FAVOB does and others throughout the state, you can check us out there. Pretty easy to find us, Veterans Florida.
Joe,
Thanks, Stu, and we appreciate your support. It's great. It's a great partnership, and we love to see the growth and the level of interest and the activity that FAVOB brings to the ecosystem across the state.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, your support is invaluable. And so Amy and Sheila are on the entrepreneurship team. And when I send you the PowerPoint to all the participants, their links will be in there also, so you can get a hold of them. And again, I'd encourage you to follow all the organizations because they have some sort of social media presence. And the more you follow them, the more information that you get that comes out from them. And Joe and his team has also encouraged us to partner with their partners. So the VEI is Veteran Entrepreneurship Initiative. It's in Orlando, and Julo Global Strategies. Both of those organizations are FAVOB members. In fact, Julo Global is a plank owner trustee in FAVOB. So Joe uses the term ecosystem. That's what it is. It's a system of support for veteran-owned businesses, and we partnered with Julo down in Miami for an event, and then up in the Panhandle for an event. And last year, VEI hosted us over at their building for our very first Service to Success Summit. So we, just like when we were on active duty or Guard and Reserve, we try to help each other out and leave nobody behind, as it were. Thanks, Joe.
Cool.
All right.
You got it. Thanks.
Here's where we're at in our agenda. So we're going to jump right into the district programs. Now, some of this stuff we've covered. So I'm going to start, Katrina, with you. If we've covered everything, just say, hey, got everything covered, and we'll get right into how you work with the school district, which is our focus. If you wanted to add anything, add it. But I also want the participants to see what's going on in case they come up with a question. So let's talk a little bit about the Osceola County School District. Is there anything that you want to add, Katrina, in your introduction about the small business and veteran programs?
I better unmute, huh? I just keep talking. I think we've covered a lot of it. I do want to point out that since we are new and developing, we've recently gone through some policy review, revisions, and implementation as of December. We had a consultant team that worked on the programming, and very quickly after I came in, we realized there was some shortcomings. One was our veteran business program was restricted to the state of Florida. It did not recognize the SBA, VOSB, or SDVOSB certification. So we have corrected that. That has given us not only just support in Florida, but an ever-reaching support across the United States. Obviously all of our intent is to, service Osceola County and surrounding areas. But we did make that correction, and we've seen, a fair amount that are not registered with the state, but are registered with the SBA now be able to register in our system. And so because of that, our directory for veteran-owned businesses is now approaching about 100 businesses. Which is really good in the short time that we've been able to implement those changes. But most of the information I think we've talked about and is included on the slide.
Awesome. Thanks very much. And, as soon as we get done with this, we're going to go right into you telling me where to navigate. So stand by for that. I want to talk about two things just real quick. One is the directory. There was, if you all don't know, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District was established to address some of the real problems with the Reedy Creek district. I'm not going to get into the political side of it, but they're looking at small business programs and veteran-owned business programs. And they asked me for help. And I actually went to the Osceola County School District veteran directory to find veterans I could refer over to Central Florida. They refer to it as CF Todd. So you've done a great job building that out. So thanks very much for that. All right. So Bob, why don't you bring us up to speed? Is there anything else we need to know about Hillsborough, or are you ready to jump into the navigation side?
The only thing I would like to offer just as a backdrop is that about 5 years ago, the taxpayers of Hillsborough County passed a sales tax specifically directed toward addressing the backlog of maintenance related work that the district needed. We had HVA systems that were 50 and 60 years old that we did not have the resources to retrofit or to change out or to catch up with today's technology. Good news is that that did pass. We are now 5 years into that effort. There have been over 700 projects completed to date. That sales tax is generating about $150 million a year. And the good news is that because it is more than we originally projected, it's meant that we've been able to address inflationary and other cost factors that has hit the construction industry generally. So it's a fresh bucket of opportunity that exists for those who are in the construction space that we would not have had but for that, but for our taxpayers understanding that the need for addressing that backlog of maintenance requirements were long overdue. So just wanted to offer that as another backdrop, another bucket of opportunity that we'll be able to talk about in more detail in a moment.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think sometimes we only get the bad news about our tax dollars at work. And the good news is that schools in particular put that stuff to use for our students and make things better for everyone. So I also wanted to mention, because we talked a little bit earlier about where the SBDC was. I wanted to give you this visual also. So these are the districts in there. And is there anything else that you want to add on the SBD side, or are you okay with the information that you provided in the introduction?
Well, I have shared on the chat 2 links. One for those that are located in the West Central Florida area. I have spelled out the counties that are supported by the SBDC at USF, and also included the link to our network's main website for those of you that are outside of the Tampa Bay region. Again, all of us are providing the same service, which is that business technical assistance support to you, and we do so at no cost. And I know I keep repeating the no cost simply because people don't quite believe it. If you want to see it as to explained it, you've paid your taxes. This is part of your taxes at work. So you've paid for this service. Come and receive services. Other than that, we do provide webinars, seminars, in-person seminars as well. We do host, this is a collective we, do host different events throughout the regions. We partner with different resources throughout the regions. These may have a small fee associated with them, or they may be free as well. The best thing to do is to check the closest SBDC to you, or just check on the internet, SBDC, and enter your town or county, and your local SBDC office information should come up. There is a small business summit coming up mid-August. You will find that information on our network's website, which is another way that we are supporting the small business community in our region. And just to tell you, this is just SBDC at USF. In 2023, we provided support to over 3,700 entrepreneurs. So we do stay busy. Part of the results as well include over 3,000 government contracting contracts valued at over $207 million.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So the SBDC is here to support you. And that was just our region, not the network. So there is a lot that we can assist you with. We want you to grow. We want you to be strong. You are the ones that are keeping our economy going. You are the ones that are hiring our local folks to improve their lives and improve our communities. So we are part of that support system to ensure that you achieve your goals and that you continue to do great things in our community.
Yeah, thanks for that. And one thing just to emphasize too is FAVOB stays in its lane. Joe Marino and I joke about this all the time. We do what we do well. We connect people with the resources. We connect people with each other, and we create opportunities for people to do business with each other. Other folks provide these services, right? The education services and that kind of stuff. So we're kind of the enabler or the facilitator, for lack of a better word, for folks to find the stuff that they need. I think, Joe, you covered most of the entrepreneurship program. Anything you wanted to add before we jump into the school districts? All right, I'll go from there. All right, so one thing you do need to know is within the Department of Management Services in the Office of Supplier Diversity, and Katrina and Bob will touch on this, this is another invaluable service. I mentioned in the opening that FAVOB works through the Office of Supplier Diversity. This is where I send folks to get their certification to do business with many state organizations, to include many of the school districts. And we're going to talk about how that works. So we don't have a representative on for OSD, but they're an invaluable resource for folks. All right, so here we are with how to be a successful vendor. And we're right at time, a little bit over, but this is really what we want to do here is I'm going to end the slideshow and I'm going to use I'm going to go to the websites, and I'm going to start with Katrina and Osceola. And she's going to share with a little bit. And then I'm going to flip over to Bob, and he's going to share a little bit, because I want you to see how their work works, right? How their process works. And then while I'm doing this, while I'm navigating, and while Katrina and Bob are explaining what's going on, this is where you can be adding a lot of questions. I know there's a number of chat entries in there, but I think we'll get a ton of questions. And so when we get the questions, we'll group them, and then we'll propose them to the school districts. And this is also where John's going to jump in and talk about his experience as a vendor. So I'm going to start with just a basic. Here's the deal. Here's the 3 R's, right? So first, you got to get registered. Both of these school districts use myvendorlink.com. So that's how you figure out if you're a legal entity. I also want to let everyone know that something that many don't know, and we can't go too far down this rabbit hole, but there's actually a federal requirement if you own a business. It's called FinCEN, FINCIN. So put it in your mind, FinCEN. It is validating with the federal government that you are who you say you are, and you own the business that you say you own. It is an effort by the federal government to do a couple things. One is to compete against fraud and that kind of illegal activity. And the other is to ensure that businesses that operate in the United States are owned by the right people. So if FinCEN.com, I think it is, it's very easy. It's just basic demographic information. If you started your business before 2024, it took me all of 8 minutes to do my FinCEN registration. If you started after January 1st of 2024, I understand it takes you a little bit longer, but just know that. So register your business, do your research. And John mentioned it earlier, and he's going to hit on this. If people don't know you and don't know what you provide, they can't do business with you. And the contrary part of that is, if I've seen people hand me a capability statement, and I literally think they could do everything from build bridges to make bologna sandwiches. I mean, their capability statement basically says they can do everything, which means for me, I don't know what they do, right? And I throw their capability statement over on the folder. So make sure you know who you are and what you do really, really well. And also research who's doing business with the school districts now, because they need help. And John can talk about that relationship of primes and subprimes. I'm not sure if you use those terms in the school districts, but people who are partnering on stuff. And the other is, just like everything, just because you register and you sit around and you go, man, nobody's called me. Yeah, you're right, because nobody knows you, right? So you've got to reach out and build relationships. So those are the 3 R's to that. So let's do this. I am going to end this show. And Katrina, I am going to start with you, my friend. Let me go to the web and let me find you, my friend. That's Hillsborough. There you are. I'm hoping Chris, give me a verbal that you can see the Osceola County School District.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, let me do this then. Let me share again. All right, there we go. Thank you for that. How about now?
Perfect.
All right, Katrina, I am at your command, my friend. This is your website. Why don't you start with the vendor certification side, and then I'm going to jump over to Bob to do the bidding side. But take us through what's important for a small business or a veteran-owned business to know about your website and what information is available here.
Okay. So first I want to say in the previous slide, my vendor link is a very large vendor link that houses a lot of school districts. I just want to point out that we do not use that in Osceola County. We are weird, but we use vendorlink.osceola.org. So you'll see that links to it are on my website as we go through this. So I just want to point that out. So one of the fun things that I got to turn into was like a webmaster when I built this program from the ground up. Never knew I could do it, but it worked. So this is a product of my efforts. In the second box, you're going to see vendor certification and registration. So there are 3 different links here. Well, there's 4 technically, because you can go to the homepage where it says vendor certification registration. But we have 3 opportunities for you to certify or register here in Osceola County Schools. The first is we do certify small business enterprises. So we do our own certification. We take in all of the requirements and paperwork, and we can certify you to do business as a small business within the confines of Osceola County schools. One thing I'm very upfront about is that it does not reciprocate elsewhere. It does keep you here in Osceola County School District. So I usually will refer people to other entities where I know we take their certification because I think that gives you a further reach depending on that business's wishes. If they just want to do business with Osceola County, we can make that happen, no problem. So that second line there, that's going to be SBE registration based on local developing business certification. So this is a registration program because we do not certify local developing businesses. But what we do is if you are certified as a local developing business with either GOA, which is Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, Orlando International Airport, or if you are certified as an LDB with Orange County Public Schools, we accept their certification here in our school district, which puts you under our small business umbrella. And then the third link there is going to be our veteran business enterprise, which again is a registration program. We accept state certifications through the Office of Supplier Diversity, which we've already touched on. And then we also accept VOSB and SDVOSB from the SBA. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs CVE office is still in there because a lot of people do still hang on to those letters. But in here, we've tried to make it very, very simple, link you back to, your home site, but giving you registration steps. It's very, very, very easy to register. As step 1 will go through and it'll tell you, do you have a vendor link account? And that will link you back to our vendor link. If you do not, it's free to register. Fill out all of the information and your commodity codes, what goods, services you offer. And then it'll take you through selecting the correct code, which will notify our office that you are wishing to register as a certified veteran business enterprise. And then it'll ask you to upload a couple of documents. We need a current W-9, your local business tax receipt for wherever you operate out of, if one is required, and then your approval letter either from the SBA, the CVE, or your certificate from the OSD. Once all of that is uploaded, my secretary takes care of building your file. And then once I review it, you get a letter, and then it puts you into our database of veteran businesses. And so when our either our large prime contractors, sometimes our smallers, if we're looking for or our primes are looking for veteran-owned businesses, that's where they go to look. So it's a very simple process, but that's what certification and registration looks like for us.
That's awesome. And hey, John, I'm going to ask you a question. I know you may not have been responsible for it because you are the president of professional services.
Actually, I was. So it doesn't,
I knew
it
you-
doesn't matter. Like you said, it's like that CEO title. It doesn't matter what the title is. You still got to touch it all.
So you work with Osceola. So talk a little bit about the registration process from a user perspective.
So as Christina said, I mean, it's really easy, once you're established in most, since they don't do their own certification, it's just doing that reciprocity in. Throughout the state of Florida, it's pretty easy to get it taken care of. If you have not done your SBA one yet, you need to get that done because the CVE is no longer accepted in a lot of areas. So if you've been in business for a while, you should have already done that. So that process with the school district of Osceola County has really been easy. And I know we're talking about schools here, but just make sure if you do want to work in Osceola County, you have to get registered for them also. It's the same process. Theirs is a paper form to fill out to submit in, but it's still the same process of being reciprocity in.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Katrina, we don't have time to do everything. I know there's two places I want to go. So I'm going to go there first, but I want to show a couple things that I think are just super important. One of them is what you've done really well here, because if you're a veteran-owned business and you're looking for other folks to partner with, even if you have a contract outside the school district, and I know Katrina will probably go, don't run away with my vendors, Stu, but their vendor directory is here. So they have a certified vendor directory in here. And the other thing is you'll get to know the vendors who are doing business with the school district. So remember the 3 R's. If you're doing your research and you provide something and you're not doing business with the school, and maybe you're not comfortable, confident, big enough, you don't know, you can actually go to this vendor directory and reach out to folks and say, hey, look, I understand you're doing business with the school district. Here's what I do. Is there an opportunity for us to partner? So it's a creative way to look at who's doing business with these school districts and to create opportunities for you. And Katrina also mentioned the Aviation Authority Certified Vendor Directory on the public schools, along with the SBA. And John mentioned again that the SBA is now doing the veteran-owned small business and SDVOSB, and then Department of Management Services. So there's a wealth of information here on her website. And then the other thing is, this is just amazing. Like many folks, is they help us be successful, right? And so they have their, these are, older ones, but they'll post stuff in here on their training and education, on their town hall and opportunity fair. So this is a place that you want to go and look and see who's doing what. And you see in here, and this was the opportunity fair that we talked about that I attended last year, that had all of these businesses represented there, to include these construction businesses, to include the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses. So this is your network. This is your opportunity to figure out who's doing business with who and to be smart. I listened to somebody yesterday at the Chase Florida Supplier Diversity, Minority Supplier Diversity Council, and the guy used just an amazing word. He said, you got to be clever, right? You have to be clever. Don't just register and sit around, be clever, right? Go do your research, go find the things out there. And Katrina, is there any place else before I go over to Bob that you want to highlight on your site?
So one correction I do want to make is that in our vendor directory, where it is the school district, that directory is actually is for our larger CM firms and those looking for certified small and veteran businesses with that intent. So you can click those boxes and put in codes for services and goods that you're looking for. But if you don't click any of those boxes, you can put in commodity codes to look for, but this is only going to give you small and veteran business certified companies. Now, through our vendor link,
give me a commodity code just for giggles.
Just go ahead and put, I don't know, masonry. It's RY, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
See, even Army spelling gets you something.
Less is more with vendor link. So you don't want to overdo it. Putting in small keywords is always going to be your best bet. Don't put in phrases, keep it simple. But what'll happen is now it brought up, you got to hit search directory there at the top. It won't bring up anything because the word was probably misspelled. So I don't know if it'll bring up anything. Scroll up a little bit, Stu, actually. So correct the spelling and then hit select commodity codes when you're done.
Oh,
yeah.
Take the O out.
Take the O out.
Thank you.
Pardon me, guys.
And then R.
I can tell you how many times I spell masonry.
There
Right.
you go. And like say do 91455, Stu. Click that box.
bottom.
91455. Okay.
Click that box and then hit select commodity codes. And then scroll down and hit search directory. And it'll bring up any and all certified businesses that say that they can provide masonry services. And it'll also let you know what certification they have at the end of their, so if you're looking for a veteran business, if that's where your intent is, and there's also self-reported codes in there as well. So if somebody, and at the school district, unfortunately, we don't have a disparity study in place, so we're not able to track or report on any minority or women-owned businesses at this time, but it does allow our firms to self-report that they are minority or women-owned, so that they can check off multiple boxes. And in the future, if we're able to, get that study in play and establish that, we'll be able to turn that on.
That is awesome.
And Katrina does it. And I just want to boost Katrina real quick. She does a great job as you get registered with the school district of Osceola County. She sends out, emails constantly with neighboring counties that are doing stuff that Osceola County is doing, upcoming bids, upcoming reports. So she does a great job once you're part of that database, keeping you up to date with anything that's in the local area.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate that very much.
I get them all the time. In fact, I know of veteran-owned businesses within FAVOB who do that stuff. So sometimes I'll proactively look and then send it out to folks to create.
And that's what the point of those are. I do them bi-monthly as much as possible. So not only are our certified small and veteran businesses in that pool, but also our community advocacy agencies like FAVOB. So we make sure that our key partners get those emails as well. We're constantly putting events on there for FAVOB and SBDC, and anything I can get my hands on. I would give our local community and those outside a chance to network and find. And my favorite word is be intentional. So you say clever, and I like that, and I say be intentional about it. Because like you said, you can register and go through the steps, but if you don't do anything and you don't try to connect or ask the question or let somebody connect you to somebody, you'll probably be waiting around for a little while.
Thanks for that overview. I'm going to turn it over to Bob so he can get some time too. And then I'm sure that Chris will alert us once Bob's done with his 4 or 5 minutes that there are probably questions in there and we may have to go back and forth between these websites. So let me stop the share just so that I can make sure that I'm going the right direction here. And go back and share this screen. And Bob, I'm going to do the same thing for you, sir. I'm at your disposal. This is the Hillsborough County Public Schools. Take us where you want us to go to see what you want us to see, sir.
I was muted. Sorry about that. Go to Stu, frequently asked questions.
There we go. And you want to go to the
Go to the registration for a start there. Yeah.
The registration. Okay, perfect.
Yes. The reason I wanted to take everyone to this page is that so often the challenge with school districts or any large business is how do I begin to connect to, or how do I begin to peel the onion layers back so I really understand and don't waste my time. One thing the district and the Office of Supplier Diversity for the school district has always understood is that small business time is valuable, but also that the need to compete, the desire to compete is is part of the DNA of every small business. So what you see here and what we've taken the time to do is to say, as opposed to you having to figure it out, we've captured a wide range of questions over the years that have raised in terms of program execution. So our recommendation first would be go to frequently asked questions. It's going to break down for any of our participants this afternoon a great deal of the questions and the answers that you need. Katrina's done a great job of highlighting the nuances of vendor links, so I won't take us there. But if you just scroll down for a moment, one of the things that you'll see in terms of what information do you need to register with vendor link, there's some documents you ought to have with you before you even begin to plug into vendor link, because those documents will allow you to make the entry and the completion process as seamless as possible. You'll note that two things. First, the school district recognizes those 5 certifications that you see listed there. We too do not have never engaged in certification ourselves. We accept certifications from these entities primarily based on the fact that they are focused on businesses being small. The district 2 decades ago determined that those companies that exceed the small definition of small typically have the resources that they need to be able to dig down and get the particulars that are needed. Our small businesses are not so equipped because by definition, they have a limited platform from which they're working. So these certifications help us to determine who is small. And so that and so for our audience, if you're registered with the state OSD, that's all we need for you to be able to register with our program and be eligible for program opportunities. Go to then, Stu, bid opportunities next.
Yeah, thanks. You were reading my mind, my friend, because that was the other thing. That's letting people know all the stuff that you buy.
Yep. The school district of Hillsborough County is the 7th largest school district in the country. We have over 25,000 employees, over 250 sites. The budget last year was $3 billion. So when we begin talking about how do you dig in, you'll see in this, again, FAQ section, if you're on the goods and services side, vendor link is going to give you that connection to bid opportunities real time. You'll be notified directly, so it's not going to be a matter of you having to dig into, sit down before your laptop, open the screen, and hope you hit the right day. That was always our critique of programs in the past, that vendors, businesses, firms were expected to read the want ads, the classified ads, to be able to hopefully get lucky that on the day that they read they opened the newspaper in those days, that they would find the notice for the opportunity that fit them. You'll note here that we, between goods and services, that's just been highlighted, and of course, at the first question, the status of district construction projects, there's a separate database that allows us to track where the status of our construction programs, starting from the planning stage to and through substantial completion. So if you are a contractor who's interested in seeing where we are in terms of any particular project opportunity, those are going to be noted as part of this database. I should add, offer 2 pieces of the puzzle. And if you want to go down to small business encouragement program vendors, what we would like to do and what we want to do is something that's, I guess, is unusual, but we think is really valuable. For anyone who is in our database, you would hear on the educational side in the classroom something called an ILP, an individualized lesson plan. That'd be a plan where a student would come in and the plan would be developed because student may have particular academic needs, and this plan would be devised to help that student be the best that they can be. The OSD, or our program, has developed what we call an IBP, an individualized business plan. So we know how big we are. We know how daunting it can be. Ms. Hargrove personally sits down with each of our vendors, walks through developing what is that sweet spot. Where is that? Let's talk about how you can connect with the district and its varied needs, because that plan is designed to, I won't say force you, but encourage you to tell your story. The point made earlier about the wonderful summaries that we provide in terms of capability statements. Nice documents, but they don't get to the heart of how can you connect with this particular owner. So when we talk about research, we take it a step further by developing for you or with you that IBP, number one. And then secondly, you have to know that we have found, for example, if you are in the maintenance or you're a subcontractor and you're a painter or you are a electrician, so many of our vendors, be they on the construction or goods and services side, do a wonderful job and are really talented in terms of service delivery. Where they don't get much practice is on how do I tell their story. So Ms. Hargrove has developed a specific part of her introduction orientation program called something you've heard before, the 30-second elevator speech or pitch. And she will work with you to literally tell your story in 30 seconds or less. Why? We have found, I'll give you an example. There's one gentleman I'm thinking of in particular who is wheelchair bound, but is a dynamic contractor, has gone from being a subcontractor to a general contractor, and just does first-notch, first-level work. One day, he was a frequent visitor to our OSD, and one day he began talking about his hanging of doors for the Tampa Housing Authority. Well, he had never mentioned to anyone at the Hillsborough County School District that door hanging was part of the service menu that his company offered. As a result, he had missed out on 3 bids over the last 4 years in that time frame that was directly targeted toward hanging of doors. So this 30-second elevator speech coupled with the IBP allows us to get that small vendor ready to compete. And I'll close with this. One of the other success stories or strategies that we sit down with all of our vendors on is, with whom do you have currently a government contract? The term you'll hear is piggybacking. We have found, and working in tandem with our procurement department, whenever someone comes to us with an existing government based contract opportunity, we utilize that to see if A, we provide the same program or service or have the need for that same service. And number 2, if we don't have a bid in that category, it then fast tracks the opportunity for us to piggyback or to perhaps utilize your particular existing bid, if that scope meets what our needs are, to immediately get you to the front of the line. So that gives you a general overview of some of the hot buttons, but I'm glad we went through directly to the frequently asked questions, because it's going to give everyone a quick opportunity to plug in to know what those next steps should be.
Bob, wonderful. And then you provide us a great segue too, but let me wrap up. You have really done a great job of systematizing. Both school districts have done a great job of systematizing or processing what people need. They need to be able to tell their story. They need to have a little bit of hand-holding probably at the start. They need to be able to ask questions and find their way. So kudos to both of you. And it's a perfect segue. So Chris, you probably got a couple questions in the chat. So let's turn to questions just based on time. If there's a grouping of questions of people that had maybe similar questions, and we can jump back and forth if it's needed to go into the pages. But what are folks asking us about in the chat as far as doing business with the school districts?
We've only got about 3 right now, 3 questions. So if anybody else has any, now's the time to put them on in there. So we can probably knock all 3 of these out.
Sure.
First one was, do you need to be a general contractor or work under a general contractor to do work with the schools, Broward and Palm Beach specifically?
Great question. Let me throw it out to either Bob or Katrina. Obviously you may or may not know about those 2 school districts, but answering for your school district, and then this person can look at the other vendors. Do you have to be a general contractor to work within your school districts or work under someone who's a general contractor?
I'll start. No, it's a short answer. There are a wide range of, we call them continuing trade contracts under our maintenance umbrella, in which there is where painters and electricians and landscaping and all of the individual subcontractor categories have separate bid opportunities. The reason why we point to those continuing contracts is that for the small business, it's the best of all worlds. It's a 2 to 3 year commitment to you. The scope of service is designed to ensure that the district need is met, but more importantly, that you're prepared to meet that need. Yes, there are opportunities as well with on our larger projects where GCs or CMs, construction managers, management firms are utilized. But in both of those instances, we also do second tier tracking, which is tracking of subcontractor use, so that we can determine that those who are doing business for us are meeting something I didn't mention, which is that we have an expectation that for every bid opportunity, that 20% or more of those dollars are spent with certified small businesses. And that's the basis for every project that comes to the table. That's the measuring rod for, in many instances, whether that company is ultimately wins the opportunity or not.
Thanks for that, Bob. And Katrina, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm also going to ask John if he makes use of subcontractors as a general contractor. So Katrina, short answer about how subcontractors are used within the Osceola County School District, and do you need to be a general contractor?
So Bob touched on it. We're pretty similar. I always try to emphasize that there are 2 ways of doing business with the school district, both direct and indirect. Your direct way to do business is what Bob said. We have what we call our trade bids. They are released cyclically once a year, but it is a 2-year commitment. And that's going to give you opportunities for those painting, electric, HVAC, pressure washing, masonry, all of those smaller trade type contracts. That would give you the opportunity to do direct business with the school district under our maintenance umbrella as well, and also our facilities department. The indirect way of doing business is as a subcontractor or subconsultant with our larger GC and CM partners. And our Expectation is a minimum of 10%. Obviously, out the gate, we started a little small. We're finding most of our partners are going to well exceed that in the early stages of some of our projects that are up and coming. But yeah, he touched on it. So we're pretty similar here in Osceola.
Good, thank you, Katrina. And John, what about you as a general contractor? How do you approach when you you want to bid on a contract and you're not necessarily provide some of the services that they're asking for?
So it is, again, it's a multi-tiered option to kind of go in there, all depending on what you're looking to do. Because even as a licensed contractor, general contractor, we don't go after, some of this projects as the prime. We're still going as a subconsultant to design firms, to construction firms. And as Katrina said, these things are released throughout. So as you're in that vendor link, you're going to get the notifications for your access code. So you're just making sure that vendor code that you're putting in there is the right code for the scope of works that you're providing. And, sometimes getting your foot in the door, it's good to partner with someone that's already been in the system. They get to know your name. Again, it's all about, getting your name out there. Again, it's all about the visibility of who you are and what you're providing. One thing I would kind of ask, Katrina and Bob, just as we're discussing this, there is a big, set aside for small business, but as veterans, the big part is getting that veteran bonus participation or those veteran requirements. And I know School District of Osceola County started to implement that. Orange County has it in place. They've had it in place for several years, just as City of Orlando does and GOA. So Bob, looking at Hillsborough County and the School District of Hillsborough County, is that something that's going to start coming around, is doing a veteran bonus program?
The program, short answer, yes. Longer answer, it will be rolled into our small business encouragement initiative. So often what we find is that small businesses, our program is defined so that it allows for our prime vendors to be able to reach into a variety of angles or opportunities. So the answer to your question is you're going to begin seeing that specifically service disabled veteran services owned companies are going to be an emphasis as we begin to look at our rollout of opportunity, not only this year, but particularly once our financial system is retrofitted and up and operational by the end of the summer.
Thanks, Bob.
That's great to hear. And we look forward to that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Katrina, what about you? SDVOSB or?
So we have, our school board is made up of 5 members, and 2 of those are past military. So it is a huge emphasis with our school board. Now our goal percentage program is SBE or VBE, so small or veteran. They can satisfy that 10% either or. I can just tell you what I've seen so far when we get submittals for projects is that most larger CM prime partners are giving us both, which is really good. I think, again, it's just knowing where to find our veteran businesses, which is why that directory has become such a hot button for us, and making sure that we're notifying those businesses so that they can do their research, so they can find those larger CMs. One thing I will point out is vendor link is full of information. Everything is public record, which is really good for small businesses. If you're a painter, you can get into vendor link, you can look up past bid awards, you can look up what past people bid, you can look up pricing, you can look at who's won, who's on current. So there's so much information. It's all about, I think, just having somebody help you navigate through it that first time, because once you know how to do your research, then you can prepare yourself for when that bid comes available again. You can pull the bid. What insurances do I need? What paperwork do I need to be prepared for, or prepared with, excuse me. That way, when the time comes, you're not playing catch up, you're ready to go. And we can put you in connection with the procurement department and the buyer that specifically is responsible for that bid as well, to help you as the time goes.
Thanks, Katrina, very much. Chris, you said there was another couple questions. Let's see if we can get at least one more, and then we got a little bit of information to give out and wrap up.
Yeah, I've got two more if we can sneak them in. But
So give me one.
here we go. Federal agencies often publish electronically business and procurement forecasts. Does Hillsborough have a forecast, and how often is the forecast released?
Short answer again, yes. It's released, it's updated once a month, and it is accessible on our website. It is also part of, we also have a 5-year plan on the construction end of the house. That's also available, as I'm sure Osceola does as well. That will allow for a business to do forecasting going forward as to what's being teed up in the future. I should also add that with the projects associated with the sales tax referendum, those projects are advertised 2 years in advance. So it does give a business who's looking for, who's in that space, a 2-year head start on what opportunities will be on the table in that construction arena, specifically working with our sales tax referendum projects.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Katrina, is it a ditto for you, basically? Awesome. Thanks. Chris, one more question.
Last one from Mike Harvey. Like the federal government, are the incentives for prime contractors to work with veteran-owned businesses?
Katrina?
Are there incentives? Sorry.
For us, if I'll use our larger, and I'm going to go into some procurement speak, but our larger solicitations, so our request for proposals, CCNA, construction based services, there is an incentive because they are awarded points for their effort to contract, subcontract, subconsult out to small and veteran-owned businesses. So it is encouraged that they do it, but if they don't do it, they're not going to get points in that section. So that means ultimately their overall evaluation score is going to drop, means they're going to miss out on some opportunities. We are in the early stages of tracking, and your past performance will become part of your evaluation criteria as time goes on. This is something this is brand new. I just sat through my first evaluation last week, but it is a very fun arena to be in. But I check my references, for people that are doing work in other school districts, find out how their past performance has been hit utilizing those goals. And so I take that into account when I am evaluating these companies that are proposing for these jobs.
And Katrina, thanks for that. And I'm gonna jump in here. There was another question and I saw it pop up there. VendorLink is the place to go for those products and services outside of construction to answer that question. So go to VendorLink. So guys, I'm gonna wrap up with one last thing here, and it's a selfless plug. But I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank the folks that have come on, and especially FAVOB members. And if you're not a member, why join FAVOB? Ask a FAVOB member. And it's about the best deal in town as far as the business association at only $189 annual membership. And we've got this big network of folks, 400 plus members, 10,000 social media followers, 2,300 mail call subscribers. What that means to you is just an opportunity to have a big network, a network of networks. And we have ongoing professional development, and you can find all the stuff on Eventbrite or favob.net. And we have a whole year full of professional development opportunities. And we're supported by wonderful people like SBDC, the SBA. In fact, I'm on the National SBA Advisory Council for veteran small businesses stuff. And at the end of the day, it's all about making money. If you're not cashing a check, right, then we've done something wrong. So I would encourage you, if you're not a FAVOB member, to become a FAVOB member. I want to say thanks to everyone. We start on time, we end on time. I know if you need to drop and get back, what's the old joke? Get back on your head. The coffee breaks over. You can go. This will be recorded, and we will send out a PowerPoint to everybody on the call. So thank you very much. Chris, thanks for your assistance. And again, panelists, thank you for being on. this is the end of the call. Appreciate it.